All right. Now, hello. My name is. Let me look at this. My name. My name is John McNeil. All day today, and I've been asked to speak about Carmine Caruso. All of you know who that is, probably. If you don't know, he's a revolutionary, legendary, sometimes controversial brass teacher who is teaching kind of dominated the pro brass world in New York for a lot of decades, and that through New York, like the rest of the world, actually. And there are lots of other good teachers, Bill Adam and like that. But um, this guy seemed like he had the most of it, and mostly he was my teacher. And look what he did. Uh, a terrible job. Anyway, I'd like to say at this point that uh, there was so much stuff to organize, and I only have like a half hour, 40 minutes, something like to put it in. And if I just talk, which I could do and I'd like to do, I'd probably wander off a little bit. And so we'd be here for too long and I wouldn't get to everything. There's a lot of stuff to cover. And so I don't want to be a drag about it, but I might have to consult my notes fairly often. I'll look over here. I'm keeping over here on a music stand. So I don't know. I don't want you to think I'm not being spontaneous, but I'm old. I can't remember. Okay, my name. What did I say? My name yet? Okay. Anyway, uh, now let me say that the person who should be doing this today is Lori Frink. She was she knew the most about Carmine of anybody. He was her mentor, in fact. He sort of chose her to carry on his teaching, his legacy, whatever it is, and taught her so much. Carmine himself knew more about teaching than anyone that I ever met. And so Lori was a pretty good teacher before that. She was outstanding after that. Unfortunately, she died, as we all do, but she was unexpected. She was getting better, and everybody was happy about that. She had cancer, and she was getting better. Numbers going up, and then they just cratered, and she was out of here like that. And so, since I wrote a book with her, we co-authored a book called Flexus that uses some of Carmine's methodology, a lot of it actually. Um, I am thought of as somebody who um, I'm the other guy who knows about Carmine. Now, I don't think that's true, or it might be true. I don't know. I do know. I do know stuff, but I'm just trying to avoid conflict here because let me just say there's many fine instructors around the world, and they don't teach about Carmine at all, and maybe they hate him or something. I don't know. And the ones who do teach Carmine Caruso's system, sometimes they do, sometimes it's a version of it, and I don't not claiming to be an expert on anything ever, except coffee, and shoelaces. I know a shoelace. I know a shoelace when I see it. Uh, now, uh, so I just don't want anybody, whoever checks this up, this is going to be recorded, so it'll be seen by more people than even here today, and to get all bent out of shape about who knows more about Carmine. I won't even argue. I'll just agree with you. It's not worth it. So anyway, let me consult my notes here. Okay, about me. I don't want to forget and get things out of order. Very quickly, I've been a jazz trumpet player in New York for about 47 years, something like that. And I'm also privileged to teach a couple of classes and some private students at New England Conservatory. I commute from New York, and although not now, it's a total mess. And I've been recording under my own name since 1978, and I've made over 45 million records. No, that's not true. You'd have to find Thomas Edison to find somebody that's made more records than me, pal. Just kidding. Anyway, it looks like I may have to forge ahead into the world of unaccompanied jazz improvisation. Never done that, but maybe it'll maybe it'll turn out good. Anyway, I was self-taught as a kid in Northern California, or to play from listening to records. Taught myself to read so I could get into the band, and finally get into the high school band. Finally went to college, graduated from there. Was never arrested. Uh, Made my way to New York. Finally made it here, which is the dream of every aspiring jazz player. And I'll tell you what, when I got to New York, I found that it was an incredibly competitive place for musicians, trumpet players. Well, for everything probably, but the arts definitely. And I quickly figured out that I'm not going to cut it. I can't hang with these trumpet players. There's so many that are so much better. I was working, but you know, there's a lid on that one. So I asked around, and everybody said Carmine was the guy. So I called him up. Best move I ever made. And I called him up and got a lesson and started seeing him every week. And uh, yeah, I owe my career to Carmine in many ways. He made me an employable trumpet player. He gave me the skills to play a whole more range of gigs more than I ever had before. I wound up playing lead with Larry Elgart's big band. I mean, I'm a lead player. What the hell is that? The world began to rotate on its axis the wrong way when that happened. Uh, and anyway, and he also gave me the kind of skill that let me express myself more freely as a jazz musician. So that's me. That's the whole story. And so for now, for those of you who don't know much about Carmine's story, let me fill you in a little bit. I want to make sure I get all the facts straight here. He was born in 1904, was very musically precocious. He had perfect pitch, and he eventually grew up to be a freelance saxophone player in New York City, and he doubled on violin. Now, how he came to teach trumpet is kind of amazing, especially since he didn't play it. One would think that would be a handicap, but I think he just came at it from uh, a strictly muscular point of view, and it sort of changed a lot of things. He told me that in 1941 he was playing in the house orchestra of a restaurant club or something like that in Manhattan. And he noticed that guys in the trumpet section were always bitching about their chops. That was the main topic of conversation. He said in the saxophone section, we never did that. And uh, and this is something you heard before, like in every band he'd ever been in. And and up, but now he decided that he was going to. I guess we'll wait till the fire engine goes by. It kind of lends a little bit of veritas to the thing. Yes, it took me a long time to get that recorded just right. Anyway, uh, anyway, he'd been hearing trumpet players complain for years, and he was began wondering just what is it that makes trumpet skills so hard to acquire, maintain, and improve upon, as opposed to other instruments, maybe all instruments. Uh, and Carmine, being Carmine, began studying the anatomy of the face. He's a studious guy. Yeah, studied all the muscles of the face, what they did, how they had to combine their efforts in order to do this or do this, how this worked, whatever, how the tongue worked, and studied breathing. How does the body compress the air? How does it draw it in? What does it do? What has to happen? And uh, I think he consulted. He's told me he consulted somebody from the Columbia Medical School. Anyway, he was deep into it, and making a list of all of the things that he'd ever heard trumpet players complain about, all the problems that they have or claim to have or talked about, and it was like this is like this, and anyway, as a result of all this, Carmine came to the conclusion that, in his opinion at least, most trumpet difficulties came from three things: errors in timing, uh, was it unnecessary? Unnecessary. I couldn't read that. Unnecessary manipulation of the embouchure, and a lack of a consistent airstream. And the consistent airstream, that's one. That's like the gasoline going to the car, you know. Anyway, he had a radical idea that he came up with called long setting. This was not done at the time, and he saw that the basic exercises that combined that idea with the requirement of steady time and steady air could solve a whole lot of problems. Uh, anyway, he came up with some simple exercises, and he got one of the guys he was gigging with to be a guinea pig for him if he promised not to say anything about it. And I actually talked to the guy. He was pretty elderly at the time, and I don't remember his name. Uh, no matter, I didn't write it down. I can never remember it. And Lori's gone; she can't tell me. So I don't know if you're out there. Yeah, I know he's not out there. But this was a few years back. But it was a blast, man, to hear Carmine described through this guy's eyes. It was hilarious, and and I just knew he was exactly right, you know, about what kind of guy he was and everything. And it turns out the guy couldn't keep it secret because his shop started improving a lot pretty quickly or with a short period of time. And the guys he'd been playing with for years, you know, they're saying, "What's happening to you?" You know, and finally he had to come clean and tell them about it. And uh, you might figure, he told me that Carmine had one student then, you know, just him, and within a year or so he had like 40. And the things haven't changed much at all to today. I mean, today, if you prove that you can uh, uh, improve trumpet players' chops, you'll never be lonely the rest of your life. I tell you. Uh, Over the next few decades, uh, Carmine refined and expanded his exercises and his way of doing things, to sort of organized it better. And and for I don't know, and guys came to him. Why do I say this? Not just for chop improvement, but because he was the most encouraging, positive guy that you ever met. It's completely accepting, completely positive, and it just made you feel good all the time. You know, and that counts for a lot, I think. Now, we gotta hurry here, move on. Uh, Carmine had a good take on learning, the learning process. That's really the most important thing he did for me, not just trumpet skill, but he taught me what learning actually consisted of, and that I should trust it. And Carmine saw that learning didn't start with understanding, learning a skill, that is, didn't start with understanding. Instead, we learn everything the same way. You expose yourself to what you want to learn, and you repeat the exposure. Expose yourself to what you want to learn, repeat the exposure. Uh, if if you talk about understanding, that always comes later. Actually, sometimes it doesn't come at all. I mean, you don't have to understand a car to drive the damn thing. So anyway, Carmine said that this exposure repetition thing was good news and bad news. The bad news is you had to repeat something over and over and over and over. But the good news is you didn't have to do anything else. That was all you had to do. You didn't have to do anything but that. Carmine used a classic example to illustrate. There's a couple, illustrate a couple things. It was the story about the kid, the example of a kid learning to walk, a baby learning to walk. Uh, okay, you know the story. He's crawling around the house, crawling around the house. And pretty soon one day he stands up, and he wants to take that first step. Sees other people do it, and okay, that becomes a thing that he wants to learn. And so he exposes himself to it by simply trying to take a step, and he falls on his butt, bang. And so he tries to get the same thing, same thing, same thing, over and over. I had a cousin that, I mean, he took a long time. You wonder he what did have broken bones from falling that number of times. But anyway, uh, uh, he just keeps at it, and he just keeps happily exposing himself to this thing that he wants to learn, regardless of what happens. And what do you know? pretty soon he takes the first step, and you know the story. Then he walks after that, and everybody knows that. Then they would look at him and they would say, "Well, of course he learned to walk." Well, but you have to with all that. Uh, but there's also another lesson in that. It wasn't just like the value of repetition. It was that it was the lack of negative self judgment about his attempts. Uh, the kid just happily kept on repeating that thing that he wanted to learn without ever thinking about uh, the failing or anything, or criticizing his own lack of success, or comparing himself to neighborhood kids or whatever. It nothing came up that. It was just, well, you know, this type of self-flagellation, I guess you call it, uh, it stops people from learning more than anything else. I've seen that. Guys get so hung up on how bad they're doing that they can't, they really can't play. And it's a good thing kids aren't adults. They never learn to walk, you know. They say that, hell with that. All I do is fall down. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a sucker anymore. I'm crawling. That's it. Okay. Now, let me look at this next page here. Oh, yeah, right. And getting rid of negative self judgment is especially important if you're going to do Carmine Caruso exercises, because some of them sound, they sound just horrendous. As a matter of fact, look, I'll tell you an anecdote. This is an anecdote. Uh, I was uh, I was playing through this Carmine routine, a bunch of different stuff, and I was doing good. I started recording and touring, and I was doing all right. And we had a leak in the kitchen sink, and the plumber comes to the door, and my wife lets him in, and she's walking through the apartment with him, and he hears me doing that, and he says, "Hey, is your son learning to play trumpet?" and and, uh, and she said, "Yes, yes, he is." And, and he said, "Oh, that's brutal." And she said, "Oh, you have no idea." And of course, you know, she couldn't wait after he left. She couldn't wait to come in and tell me about it. You know, that's the reason I hate her with a white hot fury. Just kidding. It's not really. It's just plain fury. Um, Now, okay, let me look at this other thing here. Uh, all right, yeah, that's good. Um, the important thing, it's good to remember that Caruso exercises are not music. They are to music what doing push-ups is to football. They're uh, they're not music, and since they're not, musical judgments don't apply. Say there's all fuzz in your sound while you're doing it. No, you just keep on doing it. And no one says you're going to do it on stage. And if it sounded good, you probably wouldn't do it, wouldn't need to. Um, see, Carmine, let me just say, I was probably the most positive person I've ever met. I said that in the opening thing. And he accepted you as a trumpet player just right where you were, and it was completely non-judgmental. And this gave his students, anybody who studied with him, just lots of hope. I'd show up there so damn depressed, and I'd leave my lesson just I was a world beater. You know, I'd go home and practice a bunch if I didn't have a gig or something. And anyway, we want to cover that last example. Oh, right, right. Uh, One thing, this will tell you about that. One thing Carmine never did was say the word don't. He never did. I listened carefully. He never said it. Never. Not once did he ever say don't. And I asked him about it, and he said, you know, why do that? If you say don't do this, you have to tell whoever you said that to do this instead. You know, so why the don't? Don't bother with the don't. Just say the do. And he said, you know, something else. If you tell somebody don't do this thing, that person is going to be thinking about the thing he shouldn't do. He's going to think, I don't want to do that. I got to remember not to do that thing. And he's thinking about that, and he shouldn't be thinking about it at all. It's the wrong thing. Anyway, uh, it's it's surprising how much a little change like that, what a difference it makes in getting rid of some of the negative self judgment in your mind and in the minds of your students and whoever is people you know. Uh, and now I have only not much time, but oh, damn it. I only have 3 hours here to talk to you. I'm sorry. I, I cannot possibly list all the exercises that Carmine gave the students. There's just no way. No matter what you had wrong, Carmine had an exercise for it, or a suite of exercises to help you solve it. And I'll just talk about our main principles, and we'll do some exercise based on those. Let's start with two subjects: timing and long setting. Uh, okay, timing. Carmine felt that timing was the boss. The boss. He said that the physical demands of trumpet playing were more like playing pool, in that it was more about coordination than it was about raw physical strength. And and what coordination is the movement of muscles in time. That's really all it is. And uh, these muscles over here have to move at a particular time, at a particular speed to get over here. These muscles have to move over there, and they have to share some kind of a common time reference. Otherwise, they won't show up at the right time, and you fall down and shoot yourself in the foot or miss a note or something like that. Now, the rule is the more muscles involved in a movement, the more critical the timing becomes. And the smaller the movement, the more critical the timing is. Now, trumpet playing has both of those things. There's like 600 muscles you got to use to play a note. And most of the motion that you have when playing, you can't even see it. It's just a little twitch here, and there's some of it inside your mouthpiece, for God's sake. Um, and okay, it's no wonder in light of all this that he considered uh, timing to be the boss, the main driving force. Okay, and if oh yeah, this is a good example. If you observe your everyday actions, you can see it. He would Carmine would ask somebody to sit down in a chair, and then with his feet flat on the floor, his or her feet flat on the floor, and hands on their lap like this, sit up straight, and stand up slowly when he clapped his hands. Stand up slowly, and stand up fast when he clapped again. So if you looked at it, you'd see that in order to stand up, you have to lean forward, put your weight over your feet, and then you drive upward with your feet. So what's not seen is that the leaning forward is exactly the same speed that you stand up with. It's one, two. I mean, it's exactly. If you don't tell the person about it, if they start being self-conscious about it, it'll change. It'll alter a little bit. But if they just do it, it's just bang bang like that. It's like preparatory beat for the body. I gotta. I'm getting dry mouth here. I gotta. I gotta drink some homemade brew here. Home brew. We make this in the basement. Yeah, we use throw a couple of rats in there for the body. You know, get a little more body to it. It's a good month. Oh, down there. My God, John McNeil was drinking on Zoom. Ban that son of a bitch. Okay. Um, so that's okay. We covered that. Now, Carmine wanted you to maintain a consistent time frame by tapping your foot, not listening to a metronome. And you wanted you to tap on the downbeats and lift your foot up on the upbeats. Now, uh, those of you who know me know that I cannot tap my feet. I cannot do much with them either. I can slide downhill with them; they're pretty nice. But I can demonstrate it if I do this. You see, I can do this. This is the shoe. You see, and I can demonstrate it here. That's what I have to do. And the odd thing is, I used to wear shoes on my hands, years ago, and it was kind of a social thing I did. Like when you shake hands with a guy and you drive that shoe into his hand, you know, he knows he's had a handshake. By God. Anyway, now then you have your shoe there, and it goes like one and two, and really snap it up, and then you subdivide sixteenths in your head. So you have one, da, 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 two, da, 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 three, da, 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 four, da, 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 you know, 136, da, 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 137. Anyway, uh, with that, nice shoe, actually. Uh, and now then, uh, Carmine felt that metronomes were useful in many ways, but not this. He said it's okay to get the opening tempo for it, but then turn it off. Because with a metronome, you're listening to an external source and reacting to it. And he wants you to generate that time from within yourself. What you can do is like get the opening tempo from it, turn it off, and at the end, turn it on again, see if you sped up or slowed down. That's a good thing. That'll tell you whether you're steady or not. And it's I should say that I don't want to mean that I'm against metronomes, by the way. If they're great. If you're learning a piece of music or learning to play over a set of changes, improvise over it, you need it. You know, it keeps you from slowing down when it's tough and speeding up when it's easy and all that normal things that you mess up. One nice thing is a lot of rehab centers are using metronomes now. It's about goddamn time to teach people that with strokes that they couldn't use their arms and stuff, you know, the way they're supposed to. Yeah, why did it take them so long? The results are so much better, and let's give them a round of applause. I'm big in rehab. Okay, let's move on to long setting. That's the other one. Okay, long setting involves keeping the mouthpiece uh, on the lips, keeping your lips in the position to play, and breathing through your nose, keeping your embouchure set, your lips sealed, and breathing through your nose. And uh, to this prevents a lot of things. It prevents something. Well, it prevents I said like manipulation of the embouchure. It kind of stops that, and because it can't do anything, and it doesn't allow you to reset for a new embouchure as you're going up a scale or something. And uh, it's sort of been controversial. People think too much pressure, you're going to be hurt by it and everything. And I'm always thinking like, wow, how about circular breathing? I think you keep it on your mouth for a long time, mouthpiece on your lips for a long time there. How about that? It doesn't hurt. I guess if you did it over and over and over and then injured yourself like somebody stupid, then I guess it would, but it's not. And a lot of the people who object to it never have even tried it. And I'm trying to go as fast as I can to get everything in here. I hope I'm not speaking too fast. The number one problem, I got it. The number one problem that this corrects is the multi-embouchure phenomenon. That's where you know when you have a different embouchure for everything, a different embouchure for low, one for mid range, one for high, one for really high, one one for loud, one for soft, one for tonguing, one for doing lip trills, and one for playing with your mouth full of popcorn or something. Well, playing with a mouthful of ravioli. Is that's a tough embouchure there. Um, but what long setting does is simply stop that nonsense all at once. Just stop it. You know, it gets rid of it. Get out. And what that does then is cause a lot of strange sounds to come out of your horn. And some people would say they're scary. And they, and make your face feel funny because it's not used to it. But in a very short time, you're going to see uh, if you have these problems that your uh, quick change of register, and endurance, and I don't know, accuracy. They all become easier because you're not shifting all the time. And endurance is a big one also. Now then, I like to have Mike Thompson put up some very small examples here, because most of you know these already, but maybe someone's going to look at this and they won't have ever seen a Carmine Caruso exercise written out. So, Mike, can you get the 6 notes and put it up there? You there, Mike? Think you can put that up there? There we are. All right. All right. Now, this is uh, the first page out of Flexus. Shameful, what is it? Shameful plugging the book, but it's just easier than me writing it out. This is the first exercise that Carmine would give you if you went and studied with him, and so we thought it would be good. We put it first exercise in this book, and the rest of the book we don't really use Carmine exercises very much, but we thought we'd just start with that. It's a great place to start for one thing. So look at the top, the directions. This is where it all is. Use 4 preparatory foot taps to start each exercise. Subdivide each beat into 16 notes. Beat a steady stream of air to the lips. Leave the mouthpiece on for the duration of the study. Long setting, okay? And you notice that on their breath attack, HTT, that's a breath attack, ton. And BTN is breathe through the nose. You also see NB, nose breath. I think that's what they say nowadays. This is book is a little older, so it's breath attack, tongue, uh, rest, and breathe through your nose. And the time keeps going even through the rest. I've had people ask me about that. And yeah, yes, it does. It keeps on going all the way through, and you do the whole thing in one setting twice, twice without stopping. And the penalty if you stop is you got to start over and do the whole thing over again. Uh, that's the punishment you get for that. So, Mike, will you put up the next one? Now, this one I think is easier to read. It's much more professionally done, I believe. How am I doing for time, Michael? Is Mike is he there? There he is. I see him. So can you get that next one, the seconds and the harmonics?
Yeah, you cannot see it. I thought I shared it with the screen here.
I don't have it up there. Maybe other people can see it. Hi, Ryan. Yeah.
Is it
Hey,
sharing?
go shave. You look like a bum. What's that?
Is that shared now or no?
Not
Oh,
for
here.
me. Man, you're failing me, Mike. Man, you're like making me
Sorry.
look bad. That's not hard. I know. Okay, you can't really see all. It
How's
kind of
that?
cuts off there.
Can you
Oh,
see it
no, there we are.
now? Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. You see that the writing on this is much better. Uh, I put NB for nose breath. These are diatonic seconds in the key of C. This is the second exercise and the third exercise that Carmine would give you in the first lesson. And the second exercise, this is like literally seconds in the key of C. No flats or sharps, but it starts on G. And you go start with a T, slur, and down, hold that, nose breath, move up to the next one, A, B, A, up to the next one, B, C, B. Keep on going up as high as you can until the sound stops. And when when that happens, keep it on your lips and complete that unit. Some people have trouble with that, but I think you want to tell your subconscious that, hey, I want I want to do this here. I don't want to stop here. Going, and you're only doing it for like 6 beats or so. So you go on up, and you finally get to done nothing, and hold it out. Nothing, 2, 3, 4, stop. and you rest for 30, 40 seconds, maybe a minute if you feel you need it, and say maybe cut off on a B above the staff. Okay, so you pick it up where you left off on B above the staff, and do exactly the same thing. Uh, B C B C D C, and where it cuts off, go nothing, nothing, and stop and put it away. That's it. Uh, uh, and the same thing goes for this as before, subdividing, tapping the foot, and all that business. And this is about, I don't know, in somewhere in the early 60s of beats per minute, 60 to 66, something like that. And down low there, the next one down is the harmonic series thing. I just wrote out the first two. It just goes down the harmonic series, and you hold the high G. It's not in any meter, so just hold it out the G, 4 counts, and then there's a full rest for you nose breathe, and do the next one. All that is slurred, needless to say. And then you'd be done with your first Carmine lesson. If your chops get stiff, either now with doing that or later or at any other time, Carmine would have you hold a low F sharp for 40 seconds. To hold it for 40 seconds, you have to play it very soft. At least in my experience, you have to play it very soft and just hold it. Just hold it out. Don't do anything. And you'll hear it wobble and everything. And it's kind of frustrating to kind of keep it from doing that, but you just got to keep working at it. And that'll really focus your chops again if they've been kind of knocked out of alignment here or mashed a little bit. Anyway, these two things, plus the low F sharp, will take you actually quite a ways, I think. Take can we take those away now? Not that I'm tired of looking at my penmanship, but I was voted the best writer of music in all of New York City.
Are you ready for some questions yet? Or?
I'm just laughing. I guess I could be.
Okay.
I can't do anything more. I'm all. We're all set. I mean, in terms of that, there was a couple things. Tonguing, for one thing. Carmine said that instead of T, he said that wasn't what Arbin meant. He said Arbin was a French guy. And he was right about that. He was French, and that tu. Uh, English speakers would give it a two-tonic, two, and Arbin was more like two. It's a little not that pow thing. So to get that, Carmine would have you attach a sibilant to a plosive. You like that? S is a sibilant, and a T is a plosive. So you do the T and the S right together. Tsa, 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 ta, 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 ta. It's uh, what it does is ensure that the air escapes quickly after the first note, and it doesn't back up, and it eliminates that thing where, somebody hits the first note a little too strong, knocks their chops out of alignment. You've heard students do that. They just get excited, hit it, and then they're playing the rest of the line. They're like face crooked. And steady air, that's the other thing that he was always talking about. Steady air is, in many ways, I don't know, the time is important, but with steady air, man, if you don't have steady air, you can't do anything. And I always try to, when I put the horn up to my lips, I try to think of steady air all through all of the registers. It's hard, to play music that uh, does a lot of different things. It's all over the place, and a lot of different skills needed, and a lot of that is from confusion about that. Why it's difficult. Uh, like Carmine said, for example, that the the steady or unsteady or large large airstream, small airstream. He said that didn't have anything to do with volume. Like, people once they go down in the low register, they make their airstream bigger. When they go up to a high note, they make it smaller and eventually pinch it off. Keep it steady all the way down. And he said uh, the volume is more a function of speed than it is size of the airstream. And that's about all he says about that. Well, there's so much more, but I can't do it. So if anybody has any questions, please ask.
Okay.
Bear in mind, I'm not a native English speaker, so I might not get it.
Here's the first one. They want to know, did Carmine ever play saxophone or piano in your lessons?
No, he never did. I know a guy that played a club date with him one time. A club date in New York is what you call like a GB gig, general business, or play like a wedding or something. And Carmine had his suit on. He played. This is in the '60s. He hadn't played a gig like in 15 years or something. He played gigs all the time. Used to in the '40s because I mean, he was a working musician. But in the '50s, he gradually phased it out. But I know a guy that played his last gig that he ever played just to see if he could do it and give him something to practice for. Then he just put it away. And I've heard him play the piano a little bit, just at a party one time. He liked to party. He was a great guy. He was an all around great guy. I'll tell you, I always wanted to be the last lesson, and you get to go in early too, and you can sit in on other people's lessons. You learn a lot that way, and sometimes it's good to have an audience. If you're going through that stuff, and I would be the last one. So he would take me over to this place called the China Song, is a bar and restaurant over on Broadway. I think it was Broadway or Seventh Avenue, one of the two, right there. And he called it his Far East office, and we would go there and hang out. Of course, it was a musician hangout, and there was people were always around Carmine there, and and he'd talk about music and stuff. I learned more at the China Song than I did anywhere else. It's amazing. Uh, Somebody should write a book about that place. It's the next question.
Did he
I
use
answered
any,
that.
did he use any traditional method books, or did he write out all of his own assignments?
Oh no, he used some. He used like this clarinet book with clarinet etudes and scale studies in it. I don't know, Berriman or something like that. Some name like that. I think I have it somewhere, but it's yeah, he would use those, and he had every method book and etude book in the world, and there in this office of his, it was amazing. And going way back to where they cost 25 cents, and it's like the price on them and stuff. I I, uh, I wish I'd gotten a chance to look through more of that music, man. He let you borrow them if you want. Anyway,
Can you
yes, he did. What's that?
can you talk about the note bends on the trumpet? Was
Oh yeah, so that was big with him. He felt like at a certain point he'd have you start doing the six notes like that. You go da da, like that would be. So you wouldn't make the whole note. You wouldn't strike it. You would hit it off of a bend. He said like your lips bend. They have to kind of relax a little bit, and the note bends down, and they come back up. They're in a more relaxed position than they were, and eventually that becomes it gives you a more open approach and a more relaxed approach. He also uses uh, lip bends to do pedal tones, starting on low C, go just with no vowels, just C down to G and back up, and B down to F sharp, F down to and B flat down to F. Just lip it down and just go down the pedal register that way by dropping it a fourth with your just lip slur all the way down. He was big on those.
okay?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
this is a question from a longtime student of Lori's. They say, please ask what you think she would say or share if she was the one here. Most likely some wisecrack, but wants to know what you think.
Yeah, right. Well, I think she'd be a hell of a lot more erudite than I am. Unaccustomed to public speaking is sort of what I am. I do speak in front of a class a little bit, but I try not to talk too much. In a class, you usually get people to play through the music more. I felt you'll learn more from that. I've never been one that would stand up and talk about things that much. So, but like something like this, Lori could just like talk and lay it out and just maintain your attention. Is just nail it. I went to one. I went to her master classes whenever I could. Yeah, just to hang out, and listen. I don't know why I never developed that kind of skill. I guess I'm just a lazy man.
Okay, here's another question. This person says, with breath attacks, I always feel I stay way too open throughout the exercise. Anything weird there?
Well, I could see how that would happen. Yeah, he did an exercise that would fix that if that's the case. Uh, but see, the deal is you're supposed to put your lips together as though you're going to tongue and just don't tongue. So if you come, it means that the lips must be moving apart a little bit anyway. But that's a habit. I don't think it's caused by the breath attack, but that exacerbates it. You're moving a little bit because of the breath attack, and it opens up. But one that you can do is like you can okay, play a G or a low C, whatever. I'd say play a G in the staff as soft as you can, okay, and stop. Keep the setting. Now blow just air through. That means you have to open your lips just this tiny little bit to keep them from vibrating. They'll only vibrate if they're pressed together. See, right? So now you've already played with them. Now you're keeping that embouchure, and they have to be held together, and and just open a little bit to let the air through, and you count and you bring them together at a particular an upbeat or a downbeat somewhere. Oh, bam, right there. When don't push the air. The trick is to keep the air just going, and don't when you want to get it started, you don't want to go push to get it started. Just maintain the airstream what it is and let the lips close on it and start from there. And that's called the frustration exercise. And it sold a lot of beer, I think. But if you if you just hang with it, you get so you can do with that. You can really do it. You could get it. Lori could do it on a G above high C. I never liked her. I'm sorry. Did I say that? I'm just thinking.
Did Carmine have a set of consonants he used for the K tongue?
No, with me he never did. So sometimes G, but he was for me it was pretty straight up. He'd have you do cut, KUT, cut, and then tuck, and starting with a T and chopping it off with a K, and starting with a K, chopping it off with a T. But then when he said when you're doing it, don't think about stopping it at all. You just have to go right through it. Don't feel that the air doesn't stop when you're double tonguing. It just continues. It's not. It's just like you're slurring, except you're going TK, and he said it's a mistake to get it too far back in your throat. You got to keep the T and the K up front, the K especially. Don't get it back here. And so in all of this, he was pretty much right down Broadway with other things I'd heard. I mean, pretty much that's the way double tonguing was taught to me in college, I think, like that. But I don't think he used anything except G. To live with me, that's all. He probably didn't think I was smart enough to handle it.
Okay, next question is, as you go higher, if your mouthpiece slips, what can you do to solve that?
Well, when it slips down or up, or just
It says the mouthpiece slips.
slips. Well, okay, if you're playing in front of people, do what you have to do. I mean, you're getting paid, right? So I mean, man, if you just try to cover it, whatever. But if you're practicing at home, when it slips, I'd have to know whether it slips up or sideways or why. If it there's got to be some reason why when the mouth when the horn moved, the lips wouldn't go with it and still grip the mouthpiece. You know, if there was some movement in the horn, your lips ought to follow it a little bit. And because I think when he says slip, he doesn't mean a big slip. If we were talking about a 16th of an inch, probably eighth of an inch, which that's pretty big. But I don't know. That's a tough one. I'd have to see it.
Mhm. Okay. A couple of people asked the same question, so I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it. Uh, Given that these exercises are more physical and not musical, how much work on these exercises should work into your practice, and what dynamic levels?
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a good one. Now, all of it depends on whether you're working or not. Carmine would say the gig's most important. You got to protect that. If you're a student in college, the other thing would be, do you have a concert that night or a tough rehearsal that you don't want to clam? Those things come into play because doing Caruso things can fatigue you, especially if uh, you get work your way up to like a full routine of them. They'll really take it out of you. So he would tell me, uh, never play Caruso's in any form less than 5 hours before a gig. Because I'm playing, it was just only two or three things. That doesn't matter. But I mean, a whole routine. What he would advise you to do would be to uh, make it shorter if it was wearing you out. If when the whole thing wore you out too much and you had something to do, just choose, make it shorter. Do things uh, that leave out every other one or something like that, and just like if there's two kinds of pedal tones, do one. Just do that. Just do some editing on it. Uh, the thing about if you're just in college, I would say do the Carmines first, Carmine Caruso's first, and then rest for an hour or two. Then just start playing your horn like you never played them before. Just start over and just do that and just kind of go from there. Uh, he was always emphasizing that you shouldn't substitute his exercises for the way your warm up is or anything. These are extra. Just do them first, get them out of the way, and then go ahead with that. He says uh, to take away completely things that are familiar to you would just confuse your face. You wouldn't know what you're doing. I don't know if that was helpful enough because basically I'm saying if it tires you out, if you don't have to really put it on the line, you know, go ahead. Then you'll get better. Uh, if you do have something important, then you have to kind of steer around it. If you're a professional, that's going to happen sometimes at inconvenient times, and unfortunately, sometimes you have all day to practice as long as you want at night, which is that's one of those. That's what we have now. Yeah, that's what we have now. I practiced 28 hours yesterday, just straight through. I'm sorry, 24 hours yesterday. I get that confused. Not a math major, didn't go to MIT for Christ's sake. Leave me alone.
One of the common threads that's gone through this whole 6 session conference is that so many of these great teachers, um, that their book that came out late in their career or even after they have passed, um, is just kind of a collection of some of the exercises that are available. and that the book doesn't represent the teacher's, real ability to pinpoint problems with each student. Would you say that the Caruso book is in that same kind of category where it's just kind of a collection of some of the more popular exercises?
Yeah, well, it's tough to do it without somebody who knows what they're doing to guide you with it a little bit, because it's hard to see yourself play, and hard to understand it. You can become like an autodidact, I guess they call that. But uh, what let's see, what Carmine did was he would put together like a suite of exercises to address one thing, or just maybe two of them dovetail together. I'll give you an example. Say if you had somebody who was playing too low on their upper lip to really be effective, and not just a little bit, but not playing on their neck, down here somewhere. Uh, uh, what uh, uh, what he would do, he would give them this thing called a quick pickup. You do it like hold your horn like this, and then count to 2, 3, 4, and right there, play, buzz right on the downbeat. 3, 4, and no matter where the mouthpiece is, you go ahead and get yourself over. Eventually, you get it lined up. Um, and what that exercise does, that it eliminates presets. Now, remember, the guy has mouthpiece placement too low. Uh, the thing about presets, you know what those are. I mean, those exercises you did when I got it's the wrong size mouthpiece here. Oh, what am I doing with that? Uh, no wonder I was having trouble today. Uh, anyway, presets. I mean, when you start to put it up to your mouth and you can do that, or else even worse, after after the mouthpiece is on, you're ready to play. Just before you play, you start pulling your lip out. Get all up under there. Playing. And finally, like I said, you're playing out. Anyway, those surprisingly, a lot of presets make your mouthpiece go lower. Not all, but the predominant number of them do. So he would do this to eliminate the presets, and now uh, uh, pedal tones also raise the mouthpiece. It's just common knowledge for years and years and years. So what he would do would he would put the team a pedal tone with this quick pickup thing, and the quick pickup thing is one you can do several times, and you do it on G, then stop and do these pedal tones, and do it on C, and do another set of pedal tones, which kind of team them together, tag team. And he wouldn't tell the person what he was doing. He said just do it just this way. And what would happen is, unbeknownst to the student, this mouthpiece would gradually work its way up. I've seen it happen. It's totally amazing. I watched the progress of one kid. He was doing that too, and just anyway, it's what did you say? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, uh, my wife was just saying here that it's like an embouchure change without that goes unnoticed because there are no bad side effects or anything. It just creeps up there, and all of a sudden there it is. If you try to get him to move it up there, he never could have played. It would have fallen apart. A lot of Carmine's things just were embouchure changing, but the person never knew they were doing it. it's just
And
it's
did
stuff.
Carmine ever have you do lip buzzing?
Oh yeah, he had me do it all the time.
Okay.
Uh, I have to do like arpeggios, and first hold a note, put the mouthpiece on it, keep it going the same pitch, and then you do it in the horn and do that same thing. And then when you take it off, listen carefully whether the actual pitch inside the horn was off from what you were buzzing. It's a lot of work, but you can do that. and sometimes it's you're playing that note here, but when you pull it off, you hear because your lip and slip down to that, and it goes back up. So you want to fight and keep that. Um, it's kind of a tedious thing, but it pays off. You know, a lot of these things are that way, small. And I used to buzz Clark studies. You buzz them and then you play them. You know, one thing I could never do, I could never buzz and a double and triple tongue very fast. I could, but not very high. For some about it, it just fell apart. But he wanted me to do that, and I told him that I had I had somebody I had to go see. You know, like I have to go water the ducks right now. Thanks.